Australia, often dubbed the lucky country, has hit the jackpot with its natural resources fueling its economy in a big way. The land down under is packed with treasures like bauxite, iron ore, lithium, gold, lead, diamonds, rare earth elements, uranium and zinc. And let's not forget about those rich mineral sand deposits of ilmenite, zircon and rutile. Now, thanks to these resources, Australia has become a global heavyweight in production and export, powering its economic engine. Similarly, back in September 2023, Australia's agriculture industry pulled in a whopping 51.1 billion Australian dollars in gross value added. The previous year, the sector brought in around 59 billion Australian dollars, showing just how crucial it is. With agricultural exports like cattle, wheat and milk projected to hit $78.4 billion in 2023, things were looking rosy. But forecasts now hint at a drop to around $67 billion in 2024, which underscores the sector's vulnerability to market swings and environmental hiccups. Now, the 1980s were a game changer for Australia's economy, thanks to bold reforms aimed at boosting international competitiveness and resilience. A major milestone was the floating of the Australian dollar in 1983, shifting from a fixed exchange rate to a market-driven system. This move made Australia better at handling external economic shocks and more integrated into the global economy. Deregulating financial markets, removing interest rate controls, and slashing tariffs on imports spurred free trade, pushing domestic industries to innovate and up their game. As a result, Australia enjoyed an average GDP growth of 3.5% per year from 1983 to 2000, compared to just 2.6% in the 2 decades before. Structural reforms and robust competition policies busted monopolies and fostered a competitive business scene. The Trade Practices Act of 1974 and the creation of the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, or the ACCC, were key in curbing anti-competitive behaviour and ensuring fair play in the market. These policies also attracted foreign investment and diversified Australia's economic base, reducing its previously heavy reliance on mining and agriculture. As a result, job patterns shifted significantly, with loads of new positions popping up in service sectors like finance, education and healthcare. These reforms nudged Australian firms to adopt new technologies and better management practices, boosting their global competitiveness. Migration, of course, has also been a major boost for Australia's economy. By 2019, migrants made up 30% of the population, which is the highest share in the OECD after Luxembourg, and more than double the OECD average of 14%. This influx has pumped up labour productivity, with areas having more migrants seeing bigger regional wage differences. Migration has also upped employment among native Australians without hitting wages. A 1% point rise in the annual migrant inflow bumps up employment among native Australians by 0.53%. Plus, having more highly educated migrants has led to a spike in regional patent applications, indicating a boost in innovation. Specifically, a 1 percentage point increase in the share of highly educated migrants leads to a 4.8% rise in regional patent applications over 5 years. Australia's close ties with booming Asian economies like China, Japan and South Korea have been a major win for trade. China, which is Australia's biggest trading partner, takes a huge chunk of its exports, especially in minerals, energy and agricultural products. This relationship has bolstered Australia's resource-based sectors and attracted hefty investments from Chinese companies. Similarly, Japan and South Korea lean heavily on Australian exports of coal, iron ore, and natural gas for their industrial and energy needs. In 2023, Australia shipped about 895 million tonnes of iron ore, making up around 56% of the global seaborne trade in iron ore, valued at around 110 billion Australian dollars. This strong trade network has positioned Australia as a key player in trade and investment flows between the Western and Eastern hemispheres. It's not all smooth sailing. Australia faces some big economic challenges. According to the Harvard Kennedy School Centres for International Development, Australia's economic complexity has been slipping. From 1995 to 2017, Australia dropped from 57th to 93rd in the Economic Complexity Index, showing a heavy reliance on a narrow range of exports. Around 70% of Australia's net exports are still minerals and energy, and nearly 99% include food, alcohol, wool, tourism, and metal products. This lack of export diversity suggests that while Australia is rich, its economy lacks the sophistication and innovation needed for long-term growth. Despite being the 8th richest nation in the study, Australia's export profile looks kind of more like a developing country's. Harvard economist Ricardo Hausman suggests Australia should adopt policies to support specific industries, similar to strategies used by developing economies. The study suggests expanding exports to include items like serums or vaccines, maybe some lab reagents, vehicle bodies, butter, frozen vegetables, pig fat, chemical wood pulp, a whole range of things, including linseed, things that emphasize the need for diversification. Now, innovation is another area where Australia has dropped the ball. From 2002 to 2017, Australia only broke into 7 new product markets, compared to Singapore's 19. This lack of innovation is worrying, especially with rapid global tech advances. Sticking to mining and agriculture leaves Australia vulnerable to economic shifts and global market changes. The car industry is a prime example of missed opportunities. Despite having the skills and resources to lead in electric vehicle manufacturing, the industry floundered due to a lack of government support and strategic vision. The closure of Holden, once a symbol of Aussie manufacturing, resulted in significant job losses and economic upheaval. 1 year after Holden's factory closed, less than 5% of its workers had jobs with similar or better conditions, highlighting the severe impact on livelihoods of everyday Australians. This underscores the broader issue of declining manufacturing, which is critical for innovation and productivity growth. Housing is another sector which presents an economic challenge. It's long been a wealth generator in Australia, with high home ownership levels and property speculation. But soaring housing costs have made homes far less affordable, and the housing market's resilience during economic downturns has worsened wealth inequality. The national dwelling rental vacancy rate has plummeted to the lowest level in decades. Moreover, the time it takes to save for a house deposit has been steadily increasing for a while, making it more and more difficult to buy that permanent house. Planning restrictions and zoning rules have actually limited housing supply, which of course drives up prices and creates a housing economy marked by high debt and paper wealth. By 2021, Australia's housing market was valued at over 9 trillion Australian, more than 4 times its GDP. Australia's reliance on natural resources and housing has created a narrow and risky economic structure. The wealth from resource exports hasn't been adequately invested in developing new industries and new skills. As global demand for fossil fuels declines due to emission reduction efforts, Australia now faces the challenge of transitioning to a more diversified and sustainable economy. The Harvard study predicts Australia's economy will grow by only 2.2% annually over the next decade, placing it in the bottom half of countries globally. Despite these challenges, Australia still remains a hotspot for multinational companies thanks to its strategic location and stable political environment. Major ports and airports act as key hubs in global supply chains, enabling efficient movement of goods and services. Strategic partnerships and free trade agreements with both Western and Eastern nations further boost Australia's role in international commerce, fostering greater economic integration and cooperation. However, Australia still struggles with productivity growth. Improving productivity, crucial for long-term economic prosperity, hinges on having dynamic businesses that evolve, innovate, and seize new market opportunities. But Australia lags in key areas critical to that long-term competitiveness, such as entrepreneurship, employee training, and skilled labour. The IMD World Competitiveness Rankings are a wake-up call. Australia ranked 61st out of 63 countries in entrepreneurship, with a significant drop in workplace productivity from 20th down to 41st. These rankings highlight the need for Australia to adopt suitable policies and promote productivity-enhancing investments in research and development, which remain low compared to other advanced economies. Geography also shapes Australia's economic landscape, with about 85% of the population living within 50 kilometres of the coast and more than 60% in capital cities. This concentration of hotspots leads to significant urban sprawl and increased demand for infrastructure like roads, public transport, utilities, and housing. High housing costs and restrictive planning rules in major cities like Sydney have exacerbated affordability issues, creating a surreal housing economy driven by speculation in large part. Australia's economic story, therefore, is one of impressive highs with significant challenges. While the nation has leveraged its abundant natural resources to achieve substantial economic growth and prosperity, it still faces critical decisions about its future direction. Diversifying the economy, fostering innovation, and addressing structural challenges in housing and manufacturing are essential for sustaining long-term growth and prosperity. As Australia moves forward, it must balance its rich resource base with the need for a more complex and dynamic economic landscape. This balance will be crucial in navigating the economic roller coaster and ensuring that Australia remains a land of opportunity and prosperity for future generations.